Hi everyone, my name is Lucia Wang, and today we're going to talk about the number one sign when opposite sex friends are harmful to a relationship. Um, this is a very serious topic, and I think it's definitely worthy of discussion. There's a lot of mixed feelings depending who you talk to. Everyone has different points of view on this subject. A common question I hear often is having opposite sex friends healthy in a relationship? And by opposite sex friends, we mean people that could also include your exes. This is a very controversial subject regarding relationships. In all honesty, when I was younger in my 20s and 30s, I used to be against having opposite sex friends or being friends with my exes when I was in a relationship. But through my years of personal and spiritual growth, my views have totally changed. And now I am totally okay with having opposite sex friends or being friends with my exes if the friendships with them are truly platonic. So what do I mean by truly platonic? Um, this is a short list of what it looks like to have a platonic friend. Okay, so I want to stop right here before we go into this. Um, I, I realize there are a lot of um, this triggers a lot of people. Okay, and a lot of times I can understand why it would, because I think this thing about having a platonic friend is very important. It's key here. If, and as I just said, I am totally for being in touch with opposite sex friends or even your exes if they're truly a platonic friend. And that's the key thing here. So let me just go over what a platonic friend looks like, okay? Um, A platonic friend is sincerely supportive of your marriage or relationship and non-threatening. So let me just say it again. A platonic friend is sincerely supportive of your marriage or relationship and is non-threatening. Similarly, like your same-sex friends who would be supportive and want the best for your partnership, the same would hold true for an opposite-sex platonic friend or your ex. So I just said that. So that's important, and that's what I was trying to say. If your platonic friend who was your opposite sex friend, who is your opposite sex friend, or is your currently your ex, okay, um, they need to be sincerely supportive of your marriage or your relationship that you're in, so that they will be non-threatening. Okay, because a lot of times why people get upset and they feel threatened is if they're not truly platonic friends. Okay, if they're not supportive, if you have if you have an opposite sex friend or you have or you have an ex that's not supportive of your situation and not, then that can feel very threatening to the other person. So we need to keep that in mind. A platonic friend is no longer has the hots for you and respects the boundaries of your relationship. So kind of piggybacking on the last point, this your opposite sex friend and your ex, it by platonic, it needs to be at a level of friendship now that you both don't have the hots for each other. It can't be one or the other, okay? If they have the hots and you don't for them, that's still not acceptable. Or if you have the hots and they don't have the hots for you, that's still not acceptable. It's got to be a mutual level of understanding that you both no longer have the hots for each other, and that they also respect your boundaries of your relationship or marriage that you're in. A platonic friend welcomes everyone to be friends, which means the platonic friend is willing to be friends with your partner too, so it's inclusive, not exclusive. So let me just say that again. A platonic friend welcomes everyone to be friends, which means the platonic friend is willing to be friends with your partner too, and is inclusive, not exclusive. It's not cool and considered disrespectful if a platonic friend only wants to be friends with you and not your partner. And this is where we get into trouble, folks. Okay, this is where if they're not truly a platonic friend, that's where your partner could feel threatened and not be in favor of even, you being in touch with your opposite sex friend or your ex, is when your opposite sex friend or ex is not interested in being friends with your new partner. That's totally unacceptable. Okay, if they're and besides, if they're truly your friends, like your other friends that you have, they would be supportive of your relationship. Why not, right? Why would they be against your relationship unless they're not truly platonic and they still have feelings for you, or they're jealous, or they want you all to themselves and they don't want to share you with your partner. While these feelings may be understandable because your opposite sex friend or your ex may have known you longer and feel like they feel as though but they belong in your life, right? And so, but it's not acceptable, folks. Okay, it's going to be harmful to your relationship if you entertain an opposite sex friend or an ex who's not going to respect the boundaries of your relationship, of your new relationship. And last but not least, a platonic friend will also treat your partner with respect. So that goes without saying. Okay, all this has to be in place. That what I would define as truly platonic. Okay, so a platonic friend is supportive of your relationship. They no longer have the hots for you, or vice versa. They welcome everyone to be friends, and they also treat your partner with respect. Personally speaking, as I have said in some of my previous videos, if you guys have seen me in my other videos, I have mentioned that I'm very good friends with my ex-husband. We are truly platonic friends, and all of us, my ex, me, and my current husband, we occasionally will go out to meet, we go out to eat, and we catch up as friends. Just like any other friends that we would normally have in our lives. My ex is really considered a true platonic friend. And actually, he's not just a platonic friend, he's a good friend of mine. I don't have a lot of good friends. I have a couple of good friends in my life, and he's one of them. So he's not only a good friend, but he's a platonic friend as well. And just recently, as a matter of fact, we all went out to eat and chatted and had a good conversation. And I think the reason why this works fine for me, or fine for all of us, I should say, is because we are all on the same page. Meaning my husband, my ex, and I all know that my ex and I are just platonic friends and nothing more. So as I was saying previously, this level of comfort of really acknowledging and seeing, it's not just saying, okay, even if you tell your partner that your ex or your opposite sex friend is just a platonic friend, they need to see it for themselves. And really, truly, the only way they can see it is by observing you, how you are. And when they do finally agree to meet with your friend or your opposite sex friend or your ex, they need to see for sure, as I've always said, actions speak louder, right? You can tell your partner blue in the face that that he's just a platonic friend. But unless your partner actually witnesses it and sees it observes it for himself, will it be more believable, and will he have more trust in the situation? So in my situation, it works, and I think my current husband, it took him a few years to be receptive to the idea. I'll be honest with you, we've been married almost 9 years, and the first several years we never really talked about it. He knows that we keep in touch as friends, that my ex and I keep in touch, and he also knows that he was just a good friend. But he never felt comfortable of meeting him until just recently. As a matter of fact, I was really pleasantly surprised. A few months ago, my husband had actually brought up the subject and said that he'd be open to us treating him out to eat, and for him meeting with them. So I was really, really pleasantly shocked and surprised, and frankly, I was relieved, because I've been telling him all these years that we're just platonic friends. That's what I've shown him. When we talk on the phone, I let my husband know. I've even offered him to put him on speakerphone, and we all can talk. And my current husband was never comfortable with that idea, so he would decline on the offer. But I did my part to try to ease any kind of discomfort that my current husband has regarding my relationship with my ex. But yeah, I was really, really happy when my husband approached me a couple months ago and said that he would like us to treat my ex-husband out to eat, and for all of us to get together and talk. So that was a wonderful time. We went to a Mexican restaurant and sat there for a few hours, and we just talked about life, everything. So it was good. It was very good, and I'm really proud of my husband that he is open now to the idea, and he obviously has a comfort level that he didn't have in the past or maybe I don't know. I can't speak for him. I don't know what made him change his mind, and why the change of heart. But regardless, I think it might be through my own actions as well, showing him through the years that he's just a platonic friend. Obviously, if my ex wasn't a platonic friend, I would have reunited with him already, right? And so that's fairly obvious. And it's not like I talk about my ex-husband all the time. We don't talk every single day. It's within reason, right? It's a reasonable um, relationship where we communicate, maybe, I would say maybe twice or three times a month. All right. I would say the most once a week, and the least once a month. So again, everything's put in perspective, and it's not overboard. It's not inappropriate. And I think after several years, my current husband was able to see that, and so his comfort level, and truly, as he said to me, he shared with me that my ex-husband has never been mean to him, has never done anything to him. He has met my ex-husband. So he also, I guess, he realizes that there's no reason for him not to like my ex-husband. My ex-husband is the kind of guy, he gets along with everybody, very nice man, mature, very mature. And he's the kind of guy that everyone that meets just likes him. That's how my ex-husband is. He's just got a great personality. And so my current husband realized that my ex never did anything to him. There's no reason he can think of that would make him not like him. So anyway, with that said, I just want to say it can happen under the right circumstances. And like I said, they have to be truly a platonic friend. Let's see. Now, I do want to say this unique kind of situation may not work for everyone, and especially if your partner is jealous or just isn't comfortable with the idea, or if you and your ex have never made amends to become friends after the breakup, or if your ex have decided not to remain in contact, and therefore there is no contact. Okay, so let me just go back and repeat these things again. So recognize, folks, I'm not saying this is a hard, fast rule. I'm not saying this is something everyone should have in their relationship. This is just what works for me. And I just want to address this issue from the standpoint of people that are accepting of or opposite sex friends, or even their exes as friends. Okay, but I understand it's not for everyone. There's a lot of people. We all are different. We all are unique. Some of us are at different stages of our life. That would maybe explain why they're not open to the idea. There could be numerous reasons why people are not going to be open to the idea. So I want to say I recognize that, and some of the reasons could be simply because your partner's jealous. There's nothing wrong being jealous. I've actually heard asked questions. I've actually got, I see many questions about, is it okay to be jealous, or what's considered overly jealous? I would say, a little bit of jealousy is okay, but I think if it's overboard, if someone is too jealous, where they're just to the point of they're obsessed and they're controlling, then then it's getting a little bit toxic for a behavior. And so it's unhealthy when it becomes obsessive, and when it becomes overly or overboard, if it's excess kind of jealous behavior. But a little bit of jealousy is okay. And I would say, even I would go as far as to say, if you're giving your partner a reason to feel jealous, then absolutely it would be justified if your partner gets jealous. I mean, but I would hope, if you guys have a good relationship, you would be aware and sensitive to your partners, that you would not behave in a manner that would make your partner feel jealous. Okay, there's absolutely no reason, excuse to have that kind of behavior in a relationship, because it is bordering on being toxic, and you're not helping to build the relationship and the trust and the intimacy in your relationship. So that's something to keep in mind, especially when you're around opposite sex friends or your exes. Okay, is that you need to be mindful of how you behave, and mindful of how they behave as well. Okay, this is all under the assumption that you already know for a fact that you and your ex or your opposite sex friend are just platonic friends. Okay, so So it's possible that your partner could be jealous or just not comfortable with the idea. And like I shared with you earlier, in my earlier younger years, I was not comfortable with this. Okay, maybe because I was insecure, or maybe I was jealous. I really don't. I really haven't thought about the reasoning why, but I would venture to say maybe that has something to do with it. Is that I could have been younger, immature, perhaps jealous, and insecure of myself. But through the years and through personal experiences and we all grow, right? As you've heard me say, we're not the same person we were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. All of us are constantly evolving in our personal and spiritual growth. So years ago, I'll be honest, I was not comfortable with the idea of having opposite sex friends or even your exes as friends in relationships. So I certainly understand if some of you may feel that way. I definitely can relate, okay? But like I said, through the years, time and experiences have a way of changing you sometimes, and your viewpoints could change. So that's one reason. And if you and your ex have never made amends or became friends after the breakup, that happens a lot. It just turns out and I've been married twice. And so it just turns out I didn't leave the marriage in an unpleasant status. Okay. I I know it's different for every couple. Some couples, the breakup is so traumatic and people are so vindictive that there's no way they would want to continue, or they're not interested in making amends, one or the other, right? It could be just one person or both. Well, they're not interested, frankly, in trying to save the relationship to become friends, and that's understandable. Like I said, every relationship is different. It just, fortunately, in my situation, in my last two marriages, it never got to that level of destructiveness or just plain ugliness, where we both virtually hated each other and didn't want to ever see each other again or even speak to one another. So we haven't gotten, and it doesn't even mean if you choose not to be in touch with your ex, it doesn't mean you actually hate the person. I'm not saying that. I don't want to insinuate that either, because my ex-husband, he was previously married, and him and his ex-wife, they don't communicate. They don't keep in touch. I don't think there's any hatred there. I just think maybe it's indifference, or just maybe the fact that they both accepted that the relationship's over and they want to move on and they don't want to remain in close contact. And that's perfectly fine. Like I said, it's different for everybody. And then the other reason is your ex have decided not to remain in contact, and therefore there is no contact. So it's just what I just said. Okay, it could just be that you just have an agreement, whether it's spoken or unspoken, that after the relationship was over, you just both knew that you wanted to move on, and you just have no desire to remain friends. And you know what? I don't want to. No one should judge that. Every relationship is so unique, and everyone's got to do what's in their best interest, what works for them. Okay, you don't want to do something that you're uncomfortable with, because you would not behave, you would not be living a life of integrity, being true to yourself. And it's very important to be authentic, to be yourself, to be truly who you are, speak your truth, and to live your truth, right? So no matter where you are in life, at what point you are, if you're at the point now that you're not for opposite sex friends, you're not for staying in touch with exes, that's perfectly acceptable. Okay, you just need to recognize that's your stance on it. Okay, and be upfront. Okay, so these are things that need to be discussed between you and your partner. Okay, because it is considered. Like I said before, it's a very controversial issue, and it needs to be discussed. Keep in mind, there is no right or wrong here. It's up to the individual couples whether they choose to stay connected with each other or not after the breakup. So that's exactly what we just talked about. Okay, there is no right or wrong. There's no judgment here, folks. Okay. And now this brings me to our topic for today, is the number one sign when opposite sex friends are harmful to a relationship. The number one sign is when the relationship is non-platonic. Let me say that again. The number one sign is when the relationship is non-platonic between you and your opposite sex friend or with your ex. This is very, very important. Okay. Previously, we talked about what's platonic. Now we're gonna go over these next few points to talk about what behaviors and what it looks like to have a non-platonic friend. Okay. And these non-platonic behaviors apply to both the opposite sex friend and to the ex. Okay, so these three behaviors that we're going to discuss. Number one, unresolved feelings. When you and your ex both still have romantic feelings for each other and haven't yet come to terms with the ending of your relationship, still hoping and wishful thinking you will reunite someday. Let me say that again. Number one is unresolved feelings. When you and your ex both still have romantic feelings for each other and haven't yet come to terms with the ending of your relationship, still hoping and wishful thinking you will reunite someday. You see this with people who haven't gone over their ex because they haven't gone through the grieving process to properly heal and move on. In this kind of relationship where feelings are unresolved, there will possibly be inappropriate, flirtatious conversations existing between the two. And the same applies to an opposite sex friend who may secretly long for more than just being friends with you. Okay, so let me just say this again. You see this with people who haven't gotten over their ex because they haven't gone through the grieving process to properly heal and move on. In this kind of relationship where feelings are unresolved, there will possibly be inappropriate, flirtatious conversations existing between the two. And the same applies to an opposite sex friend who may secretly long for more than just being friends. So I'm sure you guys, if you want to stop and think about the relationships you've been in, I know you have relationships where it didn't work out, or maybe you just want to remain friends, or you met someone, let's say you went on a date with somebody and there was nothing there. You didn't feel the chemistry and you just remained friends. Well, the other person that you dated, they may still have the hots for you. They may still long for hoping, wishful thinking that someday you would change your mind and that you'd be willing to entertain a romantic friendship with them, a romantic relationship with them. Okay, and you know that happens. Okay, and a lot of us, some of us do choose to stay friends with somebody that we know likes us more than we like them, and there is that kind of I call it non-platonic behavior going on there, and most of the time, folks, from what I've seen, that why relationships, the feelings could be unresolved is because people have not gotten over their ex. I don't care if it's been 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. That's why it's so important when I get the question about, well, how long would this heal? What should I do? I just broke up. My number one answer is you need to take time to grieve. You need to go to counseling at some time. If the relationship is so painful, so traumatic that you just feel like you don't want to live anymore, right? If it's that painful, you need to go to counseling. You need to go to counseling and have that counselor help you emotionally deal with the painful breakup. It's very important, because if you don't heal, then it becomes almost like an obsession where you basically put your life on hold and just hoping that person you can reunite. Okay, and the other person, and sometimes we choose to entertain those kind of relationships because it could be an ego boost to us as well, right? Now I'm not like that, but I'm sure there are people that will maybe confess that they've kept an ex around because they know the ex still wishes that they could reunite and still has very fond feelings for you, right? And so I know people that will choose to keep their ex in their life because they know it's like an ego boost, and it makes them feel good that they're needed and wanted still. Okay, I don't think that's going to be a healthy relationship. And I don't want to judge anybody here, but in the long run, the person that is still holding on, they're not really doing themselves any favor. Him or herself, I should say. When the relationship is over, it's very important to move on. Hanging on to someone that doesn't want you anymore is counterproductive to your own happiness and your own well-being. Okay, it's not a healthy place to be in when you're with somebody that already has told you that they're not interested in becoming more than just friends with you, and you're choosing to stay in that situation, knowing how you still have very strong feelings for that person. Not a good situation. And you know, I also get the question, well, how do I deal with the memories, or even deal with the good memories we've had? The good memories, I would say there's nothing wrong with having good memories. But where it becomes dangerous is if you're constantly thinking about, like I said, you're obsessing over this relationship that just ended. Um, you've got to move on, folks. Okay. And I don't mean to sound cold, but I've also said there are plenty of fishes in the sea. Keep fishing. Okay. Um, Fortunately, there are plenty of fishes in the sea. We live in a world with billions of people, right? We don't need to um, stagnate our own life and put our life on hold indefinitely, hoping that somebody who's ready, hoping for a relationship that's already ended, they're hoping that it's going to somehow revive and we'll reunite. I would not recommend that. I think we all need to move on. We need to get over and heal from our relationships. Very, very important. Okay. So the second thing is that where it's non-platonic is when your opposite sex friend, where your non-platonic friend is unwilling to befriend your spouse. When your opposite sex friend or your ex refuses to meet and become friends with your spouse, or your partner, I should say, to include your spouse so everyone can meet and be friends, versus the opposite sex friend who wants an exclusive relationship with you only while excluding your spouse. So let me say it again. The third non-platonic behavior is when the non-platonic friend is unwilling to befriend your spouse. Okay, that's, or your partner. If you're not married and you've been in a long-term relationship, I would call that your partner. Okay, so when your opposite sex friend or your ex is not willing to befriend your partner, okay, that's not a good thing. When they refuse to be friends with your partner, when they and they don't want to meet your partner, okay, they just want to have you to themselves exclusively. And so there's no inclusiveness as far as them, you and your partner. They want total. I almost want to say they want to possess you only. Okay, they're not interested in including anybody else in your friendship. Not good. Okay, that's not a good situation. The third one is when the non-platonic friend is unwilling to respect marriage boundaries, and also want to say, or your partner or your relationship boundaries, not just marriage, but your relationship as well. When your opposite sex friend or your ex are behaving in ways that are destructive, intrusive, non-transparent, or disrespectful to your marriage or relationship. Okay, so let me stop right here and just talk a little bit about that. What do I mean by not respecting the boundaries? Okay, is they're behaving in ways that are destructive. Okay, we all know what that means when you're destructive, right? That can mean that's pretty self-explanatory, right? When you're behaving destructively, that can mean you're throwing a temper tantrum, or you're physically behaving in a disruptive manner. Okay, or or just. And the next one is intrusive. Okay, that means that they're just getting into they're not giving you space, and they're just in your face constantly. Okay, they're calling you constantly. They're just being intrusive. They're invading your space, not letting you live your life with your partner, and they're just trying to, like, then you see this if it's like erratic, excessive type of behavior, right? They call you every single day, or they text you every single minute. That's inappropriate. Okay, now that you're with somebody, you're in a committed relationship with a partner or in a marriage, your opposite sex friend or ex needs to respect the boundaries of your union. Okay, so when you see some of that going on, whether they're destructive or they're intrusive, not acceptable. The other one is being non-transparent. Okay, what do I mean by non-transparent? That means if you have an opposite sex friend or ex who just wants to tell you things, and they want to have a little secret between you two that you're not supposed to tell your partner, that is toxic and destructive to your relationship. You cannot entertain someone that wants to behave that way. Okay, if you're trying to build a healthy, intimate, and successful relationship with your partner or husband or spouse, you need to be transparent. You have to be honest. Okay, if you're having side conversations with whoever, okay, with your opposite sex friend or your ex boyfriend, ex husband, and they want to have secrets with you. They're doing or saying things that they know is that your partner wouldn't appreciate. So they want to just say, oh, just keep it between us. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Okay, and you have to be aware when something like that comes up. You have to be very cognizant of your relationship and realize when it does happen that it's not healthy and that would be considered a non-platonic behavior. Okay, so these are the three non-platonic behaviors that I thought of. I'm sure there's more, but these are the main ones, the key ones that I think that are very obvious that you can see whether someone is non-platonic. Okay. Um, for those of you who are wanting to maintain a relationship with your opposite sex friends or with your exes, please think about whether the relationships then with them are truly platonic or non-platonic. Because if the relationships are not truly platonic, then they could be toxic and destructive, ultimately undermining the trust, health, and success of your current relationship or marriage. And I just mentioned that previously, so but I'm just repeating this again. Okay, so um, like I said, it's not for everyone, but those of you who do have or who do have opposite sex friends that you're in touch with and or exes that you still maintain friendship with, you need to be honest with yourself. In a quiet moment, you need to really think about whether this friendship is truly platonic or non-platonic, and that will give you the answer of how you should or should not approach how much access they should have in your life with your current partner. Okay. Um, Also, since this is a very touchy subject, you and your partner need to discuss this topic of having opposite sex friends and being friends with the ex during the early dating stages of your relationship. This is all part of evaluating your compatibility in lifestyle because not everyone will feel comfortable and be open or receptive to the idea of having opposite sex friends or the exes in the relationship. Okay, let me say this again. You and your partner need to discuss this topic of having opposite sex friends and being friends with the ex during the early stages of your relationship. This is all part of evaluating your compatibility and lifestyle because not everyone will feel comfortable and be open or receptive to the idea of having opposite sex friends or exes in the relationships. Okay, and this obviously this would apply for people if you're single right now and you're in a dating relationship. If you have not yet approached the subject, you need to, ASAP. Okay. If anything, just to see, it may turn out that even if you may not have any opposite sex friends or opposite exes that you're in touch with, your partner, your dating partner may. And this is the time you want to discuss this before you decide to be committed long term or get married. You do not want to wait, folks. Not saying that it's the end of the world if you find out after that you get married or committed, but the best time to iron out major life issues, differences, and compatibility is when you're dating. Very, very important. You need to be able to resolve these serious conflicts. Okay, and so like I said, if you definitely if you do have opposite sex friends and you do have an ex spouse or ex boyfriend that you are in touch with, you need to bring this up. Let your dating partner know that you have, and before you do that, like I said, you need to be objective and ask yourself, are these people truly non-platonic? Okay, if they're platonic, you just need to know that going into the conversation with your partner. Okay, if your partner is open to it, let's say your partner is okay with you having these friends, then you need to make sure that the friends that you stay in touch with are people that are non-platonic. If you have an ex opposite sex friend or an ex that's got the hots for you still, or there's unresolved feelings, as we said, unresolved feelings, or they're unwilling to befriend your spouse or partner, and they're unwilling to respect the boundaries, you need to cut them out of your life. Okay, I know that sounds harsh, but if you are seriously thinking about building a future relationship with your current dating partner, you need to cut them out of your life. If this becomes an issue where you're not willing to give them up, then you need to find someone who will be willing to accept a non-platonic friend. I don't know anyone that would, but if you're not willing to give up your non-platonic friend, then you need to then it's only fair that you find a partner who can accept that. And usually people that can accept that will have non-platonic friends of their own. So you just need to keep that in mind. It's a two-way street, okay? If you expect your partner to accept your non-platonic friends, then if your partner has non-platonic friends, you need to be acceptive of their female friends that are non-platonic. I personally don't think it's a healthy situation when you entertain non-platonic friends when you're in a serious committed relationship. But I'm not going to judge here, and it's your life. It's up to you. Okay. So and when you're dating, and if your significant other, and also your dating partner, you need to know their perspective if they have opposite sex friends, right? Or they have an ex that they're in touch with. And you need to understand the nature of that relationship. And you may want to ask them and explain to them, is your relationship with them platonic or non-platonic? Okay. This is a conversation. It works both ways. You both have to have a serious conversation and honestly talk about these things so you can both have an understanding of who the friends are and what type of friends they are. Are they a platonic friend, or are they a non-platonic friend? And from there, I'm sure there'll be more discussion at that point. So, but I would say that if you both have those kind of friendships, you definitely need to seriously consider weeding out the non-platonic ones, and just let your non-platonic friends say, hey, look, for the sake of my relationship, I really value my current relationship, and I love the person I'm dating right now. We're not comfortable with, he's not, or you can even be honest. If your partner's not comfortable, you can say that, okay? Or you can just take ownership and say, look, in the best interest of my relationship, it's not in the best interest of my relationship to remain in contact with you. So I'm sorry, but we're not gonna be able to keep in touch anymore. Okay, and that's what you would say to a non-platonic friend. A platonic friend, if your dating partner is okay with that, then I would as soon as possible, I would introduce that person to your platonic friend, and have all three of you meet, go out to dinner, and just have a nice conversation, right? And your partner hopefully will feel more comfortable and see that this person, these friends of yours, or one, or whoever, how many you have, are just platonic friends. And that would help ease the discomfort and any kind of worry that your dating partner may have, or reservations they may have about you having these friends. But that's what I would recommend, okay? It's especially these kind of subjects have to be discussed during the dating stages of the early dating stages of your relationship. As you get to know somebody, you get to see who they are, understand who they are, what their values are, what the compatibilities are. This is also an important subject that has to be talked about, even if you don't have any opposite sex friends or exes, because you don't know if your partner does or not, okay? And like I said, if it turns out that you or your partner are just totally not comfortable with it and don't like the idea, then you have to discuss the next step, whether one or both of you willing to give up your outside friendships for your current partner, okay? And that's something is a personal decision. No one can make that decision for you. You just have to decide for yourself whether you're willing to sacrifice your platonic friends for your current relationship, okay? Like I said, there's no right or wrong here. People are entitled to how they feel. If it's jealousy, okay, like I said, I can't point the finger, because I used to be in that position. In my younger years, I was a little jealous, and I was very, very uncomfortable with people that was in touch with their opposite sex friends, or if they had opposite sex friends, or they had an ex-friend, okay? But like I said, given what we talked about today, it's got to be within reason. They have to meet the requirements of a platonic friend versus a non-platonic friend. And for those of you who are already married or are already living together in a committed relationship, I'm sure this subject may have come up already, okay? And you need to, and I don't know how you guys resolved it, but given the information we talked about today, you need to be honest with yourself and think about whether, if you're the one with the opposite sex friend or the ex, you need to think about whether those relationships are truly platonic. If they're not, then it's not going to be healthy for your current relationship. Okay, I'm just being brutally honest. So, if they are platonic, and your current relationship partner is not in agreement, again, you're going to be at a crossroad. Okay, it's not pleasant. That's why I'm in favor of these things. These serious subjects should be discussed before getting married. These things. I know we all fall in love, but we have to get to the stage. We have to be patient while we're dating and give it time so that we get to know each other and cover all the bases of all these important compatibilities in lifestyle, right? So, if you're already involved with somebody in a long-term relationship, or if you're married, and even if you have platonic friends, if your spouse is not in agreement with that, or they're highly upset and they're against it, you need to think about whether, again, you're at a crossroad. And like I said, I don't see anything wrong with having platonic friends. Okay, they are, as long as they're non-threatening, right? Non-threatening, not in a physical way, but in a threatening, meaning they would have a reason for your partner to feel jealous, okay, or feel threatened that they're going to lose you. That's not going to happen. But not when you have truly platonic friends. If they're really truly platonic friends, they will treat you with respect in your relationship and your partner. But with that said, if you guys are currently and you may be in a relationship right now, a long-term relationship or in a marriage where this is a very sore subject between the both of you, well, as I firmly believe all conflict needs to be resolved, because if you don't talk about it, the problems are still there. Okay, it's not going to help the relationship. It's not going to build a relationship if you're just ignoring important subjects and you both are refusing to resolve conflict. You've got to resolve this. If you are currently in a situation where this is a hot subject and your partner it's a sore subject, you don't like talking about because you always end up fighting about it, you need to think about whether, and the reverse is true too. If your spouse or partner has platonic friends, okay, and you've been very upset and you're not in agreement of this, you guys need to talk about whether this is something you both can accept, whether your partner is willing to, if you can't accept it, whether it's that important to you, you're willing to end the relationship over it, okay? And vice versa. If your partner if they value the relationship enough, they're willing to sacrifice not being friends with their platonic friends anymore for the sake of your happiness. Okay, and I said there's no right or wrong here. It's just something that you guys need to come to an agreement on one way or another. Okay, just not talking about it will never solve the problem. There's always going to be hard feelings when the subject comes up, or if your spouse is still in touch with, if your partner is still in touch with their opposite sex friend or ex, or if you're the one still in touch with them, it's not gonna to bode well for the relationship long term. So it needs to be talked about. And when you do talk about this, now that we've outlined what's platonic, you guys need to double check. And not only do you need to think about your own relationship, but when you're talking about your partner's relationship, you also need to check to see where they are also on the scale of whether they're platonic or non-platonic. Because ultimately that's going to also impact your decision making, right? If your partner has non-platonic friends, for me, it would be uncomfortable. That would be a deal breaker. And that's just me. That's just me personally. Everyone's different. Because I would feel that there would be a lack of integrity, and I just don't think it's healthy when you're in touch with people that still, have unresolved feelings for you, or they are inappropriately being disrespectful and unresolved feelings. It's just not a good, healthy thing to have in a relationship. So, but yeah, you would need to think about whether, again, it doesn't matter if you've been married for a long time or if you've been in a long-term relationship. You need to think about whether this works for the both of you, and be able to talk things through and not point fingers at each other or judge each other. There's no right or wrong, okay? Now, even if they have non-platonic friends, it's tempting to say it's wrong and it's not being moral, right? We all have that. We all get these feelings, and when in the moment heat of the anger, we may say things like, "Well, you're not being moral, and you're being immoral," and there's no gain in just name calling at this point, okay? Um, if something you feel is immoral or not healthy, um, you can mention that, but ultimately it's your partner needs to, they make their choices. They're an adult, and then you make your choice, okay? You can't change, you won't be able to change each other's mind. You can try to influence each other on your viewpoints and see if you can, convince each other, or at least have the other person see your point of view and you can see their perspective as well. But ultimately, everyone makes their own decisions on what they can and can't live with. Okay, so it's definitely worth having that discussion, whether you are single or if you're in a committed relationship. So it is important, extremely important, to be upfront and transparent, to discuss the subject so you both can lead a life of integrity, to be true to yourselves, and most importantly, to avoid unpleasant surprises later that could potentially lead to major conflicts harming your relationships. Okay, so that's the whole thing. If you haven't, the main thing that we're getting here from today's topic is that what we all need to keep in mind is that the number one sign for when the non-platonic, the number one sign when opposite sex friends are harmful to a relationship is when the relationship is non-platonic between you and your opposite sex friend or with your ex. Okay, and it's important to have this discussion, especially if you're dating. You need to have discussion as soon as possible to avoid unpleasant surprises later that could potentially lead to major conflicts harming your relationship. Okay, so that's it for today. And while we're on the subject of dating, if you haven't got my book yet, for all you singles out there, Kissing Frogs and No More, The Secret of Finding Prince Charming. As I said before, it's not gender specific. So for you men out there, if you're looking for your princess or the woman of your dreams, I would definitely recommend that you check out this book. It's a very short read. I don't write books that are long because I don't like reading long books, and I don't really want to make the time to. So if you're a busy person and you don't have a lot of time, this will not take you too long to read. But it's very helpful if you're single. It help you. It would go over how to date, how to find the right person, what to look for in somebody, the compatibilities, all of that. Okay, so it's a little book, but it's packed with really helpful information. So please check it out when you get a chance. And by the way, all my books can be found on Amazon.com, or you can go onto my YouTube channel, and there's a link in my there's a link in my profile that lists all the links to the books that I have. So feel free to check that out. Okay. So with that said, I hope you found this video today helpful. Hopefully, you can resonate with a lot of things that we've talked about. And if you have, please click like and click share. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put that in the comment area of the down below. And definitely, if you haven't already, I would please subscribe to my channel so that you'll be notified of all my future videos. All right. So everyone, I hope you guys have a great week, and hopefully you will honor your platonic relationships and do whatever you do to have those discussions, and one way or another resolve any kind of conflicts regarding platonic or non-platonic relationships. Okay? Okay, so until next time, folks, have a great week. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.